Hey y'all, welcome back to a Tuesday night episode of the Manly Musings podcast. Typically, we've been recording on Thursdays because of Kevin's schedule. Well, this week, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're going to listen on the various platforms that this goes out to, Kevin is not here tonight. We have the producer, Andrew. He's joined
What's up,
us with
guys?
his pedo stash. Uh,
Oh my
and
God.
then we have one of my friends and one of my college buddies and classmate, Jonathan Harkey. So, Jonathan, say hello. We'll do a fuller
Hello.
introduction in a minute, but say hi to everybody.
Appreciate you guys having me. It's good to be on the. I've seen a lot of Instagram clips and stuff, so and screenshots from different podcasts. So it's
Oh,
good to be on it.
I'm glad we were able to. I know your schedule last week kind of got a little out of hand, and we'll walk through why that happened. Because if you guys don't know Jonathan, at all, he is the associate producer with the Buffalo Bills. So, John, what is that job? What because I know I've seen you at the Jets Bills game a couple of years ago, down in the end zone and stuff. But what is that job entail for you?
I would say it's like every day is different. Because game days are only 17 days out of the year plus playoffs. But the main crux of my job is to edit our weekly TV show. So when week one rolls around, we have a lot of like refresh on graphics and other segments and stuff like that. And with every other request that comes in, especially with a home opener week one,
Mhm.
you're kind of drinking out of the fire hose. So my schedule was a little chaotic. And then my wife and I just moved into our house, so everything was busy from work to personal life.
Hey, man, I think all of us understand it. I understand I moved here and I got a little one, which my wife is taking care of right now upstairs. And then Andrew's in college, so he's just
I'm
half
used
the
to
time.
moving.
You just don't even know if he's ever going to respond to anybody half the time. You're like, is he drunk? Is he dead?
Oh,
Is he
come on. It's
working?
not
Is
that
he
bad.
is he high? We don't know. We never know. But it's always fun. So we'll dive into it, and we usually do the next segment is what the apparel you have on because Kevin's usually wearing a jersey and I'm wearing a hat. I still haven't decided to wear a hat yet. It's too much with getting home from work, having dinner, and then trying to take care of the little one and have some fun with him. You have no time. So, um, Jonathan, if you ever get to that point, just realize you'll have no time for regular life for a while.
Right.
um, but let's drop right into the weekly sports update.
Well,
Biggest thing.
I do have one piece of apparel though. I
Ooh,
decided
what do you got?
to rep West Virginia here.
Oh,
So the greatest mode of transportation on the planet, the PRT.
oh my God, that's awesome. Where did you get that?
I think it's Home Field Apparel is the company, and they
I
have like
have,
a bunch of retro stuff. And I saw the PRT shirt and immediately had to
oh,
grab it.
I haven't seen that one. I have the Hale, West Virginia one where the Mountaineers running across the football field, but that one, that might be the best one right there for sure. Andrew, you haven't been on the PRT yet, right?
No, but I've seen it a few times. I filmed it last year when we did the
The pit
Backyard
game.
Brawl vlog. I wanted so badly to include the video I took of it because it just like so slowly creeping across the skyline. But it would have been like a good 45-second clip of just the PRT.
I mean,
That's
And then I believe Kevin told me it was like that clip might be a little too long to put in there. So maybe we'll get one in the future. But it was,
when it comes down that hill and you hit the
oh yeah.
straightaway going into the Beecher station, you get up to like 22 miles an hour.
oh
You're
yeah.
booking, and you feel the gears kick in, and people who are standing fall over sometimes if it's an early morning class.
Or if it's like a Friday night or
Oh yeah, yeah.
something. That
I wish
thing,
my school had one of those. That'd be crazy.
no, you don't. You don't because
Well, my campus
after,
is so small.
well, let's put it this way, after class, if you're downtown and the
Oh
downtown
yeah.
campus and you go behind, no, I can't remember, over by
Is it
Woodburn
Beecher
and everything.
Street?
Yeah,
It's like
the
that's the
Beechers.
station. Is Beecher's is the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Andrew, that station gets packed.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not
Like
surprised
beyond,
at all.
some people would walk down to the furthest one you could be on and get on there because there's never anyone at that one
Yeah.
and go up and you're already on and then you go so and then it would break down.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you'd be sitting there waiting an
I imagine you
hour
got
and
stuck in there for a while sometimes.
You there was one where they they got us off. They got us out of the car. Like
Mhm.
everybody stepped off and like walked onto the tracks and then walked down into a backup car to get us to where we were going.
Oh my God.
It's
I got it stuck right after probably like 20 feet from the engineer building, the engineering
yeah, like
lot. And you're
yeah,
sitting there going, I can't get out. It's stuck. And you sat there for like 20 minutes waiting for this stupid thing to kick back up. And I don't think they upgrade it ever.
I
Just
think
maintain it.
yeah, you can't upgrade it because it's I guess like the cars are made exclusively for that. They sit on a concrete track and just catch the electric rail on the sides. So you can never make like they're bespoke to the
Right.
system.
You can
And
improve upon them. They're stuck
Oh,
right.
as they are.
it's it is ridiculous. But
I will say a core memory of my time at West Virginia was my mother being offered shots of Mad Dog 2020 on the PRT on the way to the backyard brawl.
An
that's
exclusively
awesome.
West Virginia
Yeah.
experience.
That's amazing. Did she take one?
No, no.
Ah,
There
okay.
was it was like the electric green and it was
Oh
about a
no,
third left. So she was like, nope, I'm not doing that.
no, it's a smart move. Smart move. Well, let's dive into this a little bit. So, biggest thing that everyone's talking about this week in sports is the whole Tyreek Hill incident down in Miami, Florida, right outside Hard Rock Stadium. John, I don't know if you're able to speak on this at all or give your opinion just because of what you work the NFL. So if you can, great. If not, don't worry about it. But I've seen all the videos, and I would have to say both sides are at fault for what happened. You know, he got out, he got a citation for two things, and he got to play a football game. I say that's it. Rub your hands, just kind of do that and move about your day.
Yeah, I think to me the thing that stuck out was some of the body cam videos where like the main guy had no idea who he was. But it's like
Yeah.
you work for the police outside of Hard Rock Stadium. It's a Sunday morning and there's a guy driving a Lamborghini down the road. Like yeah, he shouldn't speed. Like you get pulled over and but it was I've it was just a crazy situation like the because I didn't know about it at all until we had it was like halftime of our game and I checked my phone and saw the news that he had been like arrested prior to like on his way to the stadium. um I think the traffic does not move fast enough in Orchard Park for anybody to speed on a game day. So um but it was just like a crazy situation. I and it does kind of speak like I thought he was very humble about the situation to basically say like what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? Like this stuff happens where like and then we work with a lot of police officers and a lot of like we have security staff who are former police officers and they work in tandem with us to get us police escorts to games and stuff like that. And when we land at the airport, um, and they're there always to do their job and keep people safe. But it's you do like I think the Dolphins put out a really good statement saying like some people mistake that for uh like the like a license to kind of enforce your will on other people.
Mhm.
Um, but I think at the end of the day, like the guy that made out the best out of this was Drew Rosenhaus because he put out like on the video it says you can hear him saying Drew, I'm getting arrested, and then Drew Rosenhaus puts out a statement saying my client was pulled over on a traffic stop and was arrested, and my other client attempted to render aid and was also arrested, while my other client called me to tell me about the situation with my other two clients. So
The Campbell situation was worse. It was just like
yeah,
he's just
he
trying to
was just
figure out
there.
what's going on. He sees his teammate, he sees his friend. I think any of us would do the same thing of like, oh, Jonathan's pulled over, he's getting arrested. Oh, let's go see what happened. Like, what happened here? Just trying to de-escalate, and it, none of them wanted to de-escalate the situation. I think that's the
Right.
biggest thing. Is the whole time when it started, Tyreek Hill rolling up his window, opening it, rolling it back up. That's the case where the police have the can say, get out of the car. We don't know what's in there. We don't know what's going on. So they have that right. How it was handled afterwards, maybe not so good. But
Sorry.
go ahead.
And we try not to get like super political or anything on here, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. But after watching all of the transcript or the videos and reading the transcripts and stuff, I do think that there's, like you said, there's a little bit of blame on both sides. It's not that Tyreek wasn't a little antagonistic, but even like he was saying in his press conference, even if he isn't Tyreek Hill, the police like quote that really stuck out to me was when he said something like, when we tell you to do something, like you do it, like, and then he's trying to tell them like he got surgery on his knee, so when they're trying to like put him on the ground and stuff, and they're like, oh, did you get surgery on your ears right before we pulled you over? And it's like, dude, like he's clearly, he might not be super polite about it, he might not be the best manner, but he's clearly late for work. He's
Mhm.
15, 20 miles over the speed limit. Like I don't, it seemed to me like a bit of a power trip sort of situation, or a bit of an aggression. But I imagine when you deal with people like Tyreek Hill who have so much money and they have higher status, there's a little bit of like a who do you think you are trying to stop me sort of thing. But it's, like you hate to see interactions happen like that between police and people, and especially with people in the media and players going to games and that sort of thing. It does feel like a lot of people in the situation, Tyreek, the other player, and the police all seemed confused and on different pages as to what was going on. I know Tyreek says at one point, like, give me the ticket or the citation or whatever you need to do. Like, I need to get to work. Like, I'm on my way. Like he was. It didn't seem to me, especially that he was trying to be combative, but more in a sense that like he doesn't have time to sit on the side of the road. He has to be at the game, so he's going to take the punishment that they give him and that sort of thing, and he wants to get off the side of the road so he can get to the game. And the police don't seem to appreciate his expedience in in finishing up the situation, which only seemed to make it worse. But I do think that it was handled very well by Miami as an organization, the coaches,
Mhm.
and I know that the police officer has been put out administrative leave, and he's hoping to come back. I want to say I saw an interview or a source citing last night saying that he claims he did nothing wrong and followed regulations to a T. And it just sort of feels like, well, if your regulations are to pull a guy out of his car and throw him on the ground, and he rolls up his window after giving you his information and stuff, I feel like I would have been thrown on the ground a few times by now, because I always roll up the window after the cop walks away. So like, I don't know,
I
but
barely open my window when if I get pulled over.
yeah,
I just enough so I can get the stuff out and be like,
yep.
here, because
Yeah,
and
well,
that's
nobody likes it. Like, it's not a fun thing to get pulled over. Like, a lot of the time you feel like you didn't do anything wrong. So you're looking at the cop like, what is going on? Like,
Right.
you're like,
and it
I
seemed a
wasn't
lot like that was
speeding.
his situation. Like he gets pulled over and the cops like no idea who he is, no idea why he would be speeding, where he was going or anything. And he's like, dude, like let me just like let's get this done and get out of here.
Yeah. Well,
I think the interesting thing too is that the main arresting officer was a 27-year vet of the police force. It's like
Yeah.
but like I think that also talks about like the entrenchment of like I got a few friends in law enforcement, and they do talk about how you could get set in your ways in a lot of jobs. Law enforcement is one where being set in your ways doesn't always work.
No, it
And
needs
it
to
can
progress with society and stuff.
right. So hopefully it leads to some good reform. I mean, going through our like we'll be there Thursday. But I've had no issues with the Miami-Dade police with our police escorts and stuff like that. Um, Again, the weather-wise, it's a little uncooperative. It's very hot and humid in Miami, but especially when you're playing week 2. But
Yeah, at least you get it done and over with.
right, yeah. The as of now, we have enough people where I don't travel to every road trip. So my first road trip on our schedule will be Baltimore, which would be nice little homecoming trip for me. Um,
Nice.
but it'll be an interesting Thursday though. I think with everything like with just outside of football. Um, but I think I do wonder how this situation will progress with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and we'll definitely find out more as the week progresses. Probably no more Thursday. They'll probably
Yeah.
drop all the news that day, just for fun, you know. But it is hysterical, you know. We've moved into the time of year where new news from the NFL is abundant and quick. First, we have Tyreek Hill getting arrested. Second, Dak Prescott signs the biggest contract in NFL history. Tom Brady makes his appearance on Fox NFL Sunday. So a lot of stuff happens and every week in the NFL. So probably by the end of this week, something else will change and we won't even talk about Tyreek in a week. There'll be something else to talk about.
I
But
do want to put in one thing quick before we change subjects. Just because I'm super on social media looking for stuff to send Kevin, stuff for you guys to put in your schedules and scripts, quote unquote. But a lot of people online the last few days have been saying that he was driving 120, 140 plus miles an hour. That is not true. Anybody listening, that I don't know where that figure is coming from. I've been looking for it online to see who reported that. The police officers said that he was visually going around 60 miles an hour, which is only about 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit in the area that he was pulled over in.
yeah,
So
that's what I've
just
heard too.
for due diligence, just figured I should include.
Yeah, that whole area around the stadium is it's big like 6-lane roads
Yeah, it's
because it's
huge.
all for like the event traffic and stuff and that. I've been there for like I was there one time we were just covering players in their off season and we like happened to go down there because Jessica Pagula, our owner's daughter, was playing in the Miami Open. She's a professional tennis player. She just made the finals in the U.S. Open. But
Nice.
we just went with our players there, and we were like, this is so weird. Like we've been in this area only to cover football games, and now we're just watching a tennis court in the middle of a football stadium.
That's gotta be cool. And probably watching a F1 race in the middle of a football stadium or outside of a football stadium would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, well, Miami
Um,
and Hard Rock, dude, they try to do a lot with that space and that neighborhood, especially. There's a lot going on around there.
it's Miami.
Try yeah,
What do you
right.
expect?
I mean, there's a lot going on in the whole city, but
Well, NFL week 1 is in the books. Last night, the Jets looked like the Jets. Yes, very happy about that.
No
Um,
comment.
yeah, Jonathan's like, I can't say anything about this stuff. But big surprises was mainly the Patriots actually beat the Bengals. As a Patriots fan, I was ecstatic and thoroughly confused that our offensive line looked somewhat okay. And we could run the ball. Can't throw the ball, but we can run it. So um, off to Seattle. And yeah, that's going to be interesting. And I know Buffalo, they came back and won. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a very
4 yards.
very subpar game against Buffalo. I didn't watch much of it, really just this last 2 minutes of the game. And I won't lie, the Cardinals look good. They can move the ball
Yep.
with that offense. I don't know what their defense is like. You give up a bunch of points in the second half to Buffalo. Um, that's not always good. But again, week 1's in the books. We're off to week 2. I'm excited to see these games. Thursday night, like you said, Jonathan, is Bills Miami. That should be a good game.
Yeah.
That should be a real good game. Two teams that are really at the top part of the AFC East and really the AFC right now, battling it out. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully it's a good game.
It was my job on last Sunday for our home opener was filming mic'd up with Khalil Shakir, our wide receiver. And if you can watch it now on YouTube, it's available on Buffalo Bills YouTube. Good plug for that.
There we
The
go.
link will
Lots
be
of
in the description below.
lots of lots of good content on our YouTube channel. And when you're filming mic'd up, you're not always watching the game because you're so isolated on a player that I don't like. I had no idea that Josh Allen had hurdled Buda Baker until until after the game, and I saw a photo. And I'm like, oh my god, he just jumped over one of the best safeties in the league. like the or just different or like I didn't see the block that our left tackle had on a guy to spring Khalil Shakir's touchdown until afterwards. Like when they're watching the replay on the video board and they're reacting to it. And I'm like, oh my god, like that was a great play. Like in general, um, it's always interesting when you shoot mic'd up because you can't watch the game. You just hear crowd noises, and when you see guys celebrating in the end zone, you know he scored.
Interesting. We'll definitely talk about that more. And I've already gone and found the YouTube video, so it will definitely be in the show notes, in the description below this video, and for everyone to go watch. So please do watch that. It looks good already from the
Support
quick
Bill's
little
social media.
highlights.
It's low-key the best one in the NFL by like a mile. So
I
shout
don't
them
know.
out.
That
I wish I
Chargers
was that good.
that
Bro,
Chargers social media with this schedule release is usually pretty
that one's really
spot
good.
on.
But the shit posting that they do on the Instagram throughout the year, bro, there's no one can. It's them and the Celtics, and like I'm so spoiled as a Celtics and Bills fans just because my Instagram feed during sports season is just gold. It's just amazing.
Well,
We have there's two very talented social media producers that we have that I would say they're very like plugged in to like trends and TikTok and stuff that goes on there. So I internally call them the Gen Z whisperers. But they are locked in, and
Yeah.
it's always great to see what they come up with. Not like even after wins or just general
Oh
content
yeah.
that they think of.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
that's
the only
awesome.
ones that really do like the more like viral type stuff with just like as much content in like a minute video as you possibly can put in. It's like that like screamo horror or like not even horror but like humor where you just like get just like bombarded and bombarded with stuff. It's just there's no one else that does it like them. It's just I can't say enough good about the Bills just in general, but their social media is one thing that's like even as a fan, I'm like, wow, we could beat this.
Oh yeah. Two Bills people. This is hard with being a Patriot fan.
Hey,
Really
you guys
hard
might
right
win
now.
5 games this year.
You know what? Great. We win 3 games. Great. I don't care.
You got 6 Super Bowls in 20 years.
Yeah.
You never need to win again in your life. You're
Says the
good.
Packers fan. Says the Packers fan.
I grew up. Yep, I got lucky where when I was 3 years old, the first nationally televised football game I watched was Brett Favre playing for the Packers. So I stayed a fan. I have 2 shares of stock, but my work ID says Buffalo Bills and my address says Buffalo, New York. So I'm as big of a Bills fan as ever, and
Good.
yeah. So
Well, perfect. Well, let's talk about something college related right now. This just came out before we got on here. There's a huge $50 million lawsuit from Denard Robinson and Braylon Edwards, going up against the NCAA and Big Ten Network for NIL money.
They quoting wrongfully and unlawfully denied the opportunity to earn and make money off their name, image, and likeness.
Problem with this whole thing is they played back before any of this occurred. So does this now set a precedent for other players that played in this era before NIL to turn around and sue the NCAA and their conferences for some part of the pie? Now, $50 million is a lot of damn money. I don't think they'll get even close to that, but does that now set a precedence that you're going to have to pay players that used to play because that's a lot of players that are going to come out for money.
Well, yes, it's the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit 2.0, right? Because Ed
Yeah.
O'Bannon sued for being used as like a classic character in NCAA March Madness. That's like what spurred his lawsuit and like with a class action. So I think like you can argue it's like, well, you promoted an entire network that that you launched while I was playing, and I was a marquee player on that network. And that's the biggest pie that I don't think the players have touched yet. Like a lot of college athletes is the conference TV money that gets doled
Yeah.
out. Because when the Big Ten first launched, I think they were paying like $20 million a school. That's why Maryland and Rutgers left for the Big Ten, is because they knew they could make up for their exit fees with the conference payouts.
Yeah.
Um, I do wonder, like, it should like it I mean, it should factor in like this. The NIL is a weird gray area. It's just kind of colleges licensed to have a slush fund for their players. It's like what SMU did back in the day. Like, so does SMU have the right to, or like does Ed Dickerson have the right to sue, saying like I shouldn't be stripped away of all the things I earned while I was there, like when I got paid, because everybody gets paid now.
Yeah.
Like they gave
Yeah.
Reggie Bush his Heisman back, so and
They
then
should never taken that thing away from him
right,
No.
in the beginning.
and that
But
wasn't even yeah, it was totally different. It was for his, I think it was like for what, a family member getting a free flight. I think was like the
um
May or
yeah,
something
I
like
think
that.
it was the main thing was that they thought that the boosters and people were giving him money for his family to have a house. And there's like evidence that the family bought the house on their own. And then they were like, well, it's flights and this and food and that. I'm like, but now we allow these kids to get on private jets. Go wherever they want, you know. So the lawsuit though is going after the one that originally was started in 2020, where it was the initial House versus NCAA lawsuit that went back to 2016. So any players from 2016 to present are allowed to basically make money off their name. Well, all the players, Denard Robinson was 2012, so he played before that. Braylon Edwards, 2004. Then there's also Mike Martin and Sean Crable, who both played
2009
prior.
to 2012.
Thank you. To that. So now it's like, how far back can you go? Because if you keep going backwards, it's ridiculous.
I
Like,
think for me, for looking at this from sort of a more legal standpoint, this
oh yes,
lawsuit's targeted at the NCAA and the Big Ten network
yes,
specifically. So it's the idea that there were TV commercials, there was advertisement, there was programming around these players. Edwards won the award of the nation's top wide receiver in 2004, which means that TV market would have been flooded with pictures and videos of him, and he didn't receive a cent or a dollar from it. If I had to guess what would happen, I'd probably say there's either going to be a payout to these like 4 specific players that are holding a lawsuit, or there's going to be some sort of every player that appears as like themselves specifically with the hopes of being recognized in any sort of advertisement, compilation, or programming will be paid out in total. That way, that would be the more, if NCAA has the money for it, that would be the more smart route to go, because that means that no one else can even touch this. That like if they just say every single player who we made money off of during advertisement and promo and programming gets this much money, which is a percentage of how much we would have generated off their likeness, that would solve the problem. And there's sort of a back date on this one specifically as to when the Big Ten network becomes a thing, because it specifically targets that and the NCAA. But by focusing on the TV network itself, they're sort of putting another backstop like 2016 was on this one, where it's like, if the Big Ten network doesn't exist and you never played on it, you can't sue them for taking any money from you as if you were in college before its inception.
Yep.
So
Perfect. Well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be tricky. We're going to see a lot of these lawsuits probably pop up from big schools, big name people. Hopefully no one from West Virginia does it. I don't think they will. They don't. They just like being a Mountaineer and knowing that they got to play for the pride of West Virginia. Let's talk something else out of football, and college football. Alex Morgan, who I think all of us know, one of the best female soccer players or best soccer players ever to play the game, officially retires from competitive women's soccer. This past Sunday on the 8th was her final game, and she played 13 minutes and was subbed out on the 13th minute. Iconic because that's her number. So she's won 2 World Cups, has a gold medal, numerous other accolades. She's won the NWSL. So she's great for the sport, has done a lot outside of the sport. And if you haven't watched her video, do so, because she explains part of the reason why she's stepping away is she's gonna be a mom again. So congratulations to Alex Morgan on a heck of a career. It's gonna be sad to not, to watch a women's soccer game and not see her out there for Team USA, since we've been used to it for 12, 14, 16 plus years at this point. So good luck to her and the next step in what she does. Perfect. That was easy. No one else had any comments. I love it. And then keeping in the soccer news, the men's soccer team has finally found their head coach or manager, whatever the hell you want to call them.
I think they call it head coach.
Yeah,
For the
head coach.
national team.
I don't know how to say this name. Andrew, can you say it?
Mauricio Pochettino, I believe. Pochettino?
Where's John
That
Terry
was
when we need him?
I thought it was Pochettino.
Pochettino?
like that.
I mean,
Maybe because we have a few. There's a few Tottenham fans in our office, and he was the coach that led them to the Champions League finals. So they were big Mauricio fans when he was there.
yeah, he coached Tottenham, Saint Germain, and Chelsea.
Yeah, they said he's the best coach they've ever gotten.
He's a big name for sure. Like
Yeah,
he's
for
up
sure.
there. Yeah,
He's active too. Like he's not an old guy who's been
No, he's 52
calling it
years
quits or
old.
anything.
He signed a 2-year contract that'll take him through the World Cup. So perfect. Get him through that. Comes after super poor showing at the Copa America for Team USA, where they didn't even make it out of group play, which is
Tragic.
horrible, considering we should have. But be
I'm
great.
gonna run. I'll be right back. I'm just gotta go check my soup. It's on the stove.
Oh my God. You and your
Hey,
food.
I
At
had
least you didn't
class
have
until
a,
6:30. You
you
scheduled a
know,
meeting at 7. And when am I gonna eat?
when you're dead. Duh. There was one time he was supposed to join the podcast, and it took him 45 minutes to join it because he said he was eating a burger as he joins, and we go, took you 45 fucking minutes to make a burger? Like, what the really? But yeah, so this will be great. I'm excited. The Bills didn't get any games, did they?
no, because we're building a new stadium, and
Right.
then it wasn't going to be open until 2026.
Oh.
But then I believe Cincinnati or Cleveland has a couple ones, and then Toronto, which is 2 hours north of us, is going to have some games. So
Nice.
I'm gonna try to maybe see. Like I'm sure tickets are going to be so expensive for those games.
I know. I'm trying to do maybe 1 or 2 games at Gillette, which is about an hour and a half south of here where I live. And I've talked to people about going to the finals because it's going to be at MetLife.
Right.
And it's like, if I want to go to that, I don't think I'm going to go to any other game. That's going to be the money maker right there. That thing's going to be too expensive. So,
Right.
be worth it at the end. Be kind of cool to actually be there and maybe see Team USA do something good.
Hey, they
Something.
qualified. That's good. It's good news. They've already
You know what?
qualified.
If they can make it to the round of 16 again, I'd be cool with that. They
It's
make
going
it
to be
that
tougher,
far.
right? Because that's the expanded tournament, right? It's going to be the first year of the 48 teams.
Is it
Not
48 this upcoming?
I think they expanded it.
That'd be huge. Yeah, you're right. 48
And like they
teams.
go from 48 to 32, I want to say.
and then down to 16.
Yeah. That's all. I mean, I think the push is just you get so many games, and that's why I've been looking. I looked up like future sites, and they're all like multicultural, like multi-country sites, going into the future
I feel like
because
that's the
it's
only way you can do it.
right.
We couldn't host. Well, America itself could probably host majority of the games because of all the facilities, but with all the travel and all the other things that are going to go on, there's no way. So,
Right.
you
Yeah, I
know,
think because this is us, Canada, and Mexico.
right.
So
You got some of those Mexican facilities look really cool, especially the backdrops
yeah,
for the
they
mountains and everything.
I think they renovated Estadio Azteca for just for the World Cup. We were actually supposed to play there. It was rumblings that our game against the Cardinals in 2020, the Hail Murray game, was supposed to be in Mexico City prior to COVID.
Oh,
So
that would have been cool.
yeah,
That
we
would be
were
crazy.
because we were due for an international trip, and then we took one. We went to London last year.
Yep. And
But the
somehow Patriots get to go back to London this year.
I have
Great.
a question about that game, if you don't mind me asking, because you're a part of the organization.
Yep.
Was there, so from a fan perspective and from watching the games, and kind of a football nut in the sense that I will watch every single game. I'll watch Red Zone when it's live, and then the games that intrigue me, I will watch after later that night. And I always watch the full Bills game. I typically do that on Tuesday because I'm crazy and just want more football. To me, it seemed an interesting choice, and I'm not going to say it was the determining factor, but I think it definitely was a factor. And this was a year ago, so I don't have anything off the brain to give as an example. But on social media and to myself, it seemed like there was a little bit of a competitive advantage in the sense that Jacksonville had played 2 games straight in London, and the Bills had flown into London and then had to get associated with the time clock and the weather changes and that sort of thing, and then play a game against Jacksonville, who'd been there for 2 weeks. Was that a thing that was talked at all by the Bills, or is it more just like we got to go play and it happens to be in London this week?
I think the prevailing sports science stuff, at least what our staff so we got some amazingly talented and smart people in our sports science department. And I think it's kind of an industry standard. You want to go Thursday night. So you take the overnight
Yeah,
flight Thursday. I believe the Chiefs did Thursday night going to Germany when they played the Dolphins last year as
yeah,
well. And the Dolphins went on Monday and Chiefs ended up winning. So I don't know if you can say it's a competitive advantage or not. Um,
yeah. The
my one of
flying
my
in definitely affects the
right,
in some capacity.
right, and it's interesting this because at the end of the day you got to roll the ball out and play. Um, so I and that was to me that was kind of a chaotic game as well because we lost 2 of our best defenders in the first quarter. We lost Daquan Jones and Matt Milano and to
Mhm.
near season like well one was a season ender and the other one was close to it. So that was like your like depending on like I don't think it necessarily mattered if you were ready to go or not like
Yeah.
physically. My good friend of mine works for the Jaguars and so he was there all 2 weeks and he said he was exhausted by like the Friday before they played Buffalo. Like it was just
Yeah.
they also moved stadiums and sites because they
Yeah.
played at Wembley and then they went to Tottenham, which is across the city.
Okay.
But
That's
I'm sure
interesting. I
I'm
appreciate that
I'm sure
insight.
there's going to be some. I'm sure they're researching and doing all this stuff when it comes to these international games because they're going to keep coming.
Oh yeah.
The NFL is seems to make that a big deal. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, I there's some locations I think that would be definitely be cool for NFL games that I know that they're trying to plan on.
Well, we might start World War III with what Carolina and whoever playing over there. That's might start World War III
Never
right
want to
there.
see American sports again after watching Carolina play.
No, that's an abysmal fucking football team. But
My favorite thing, I was watching the herd last night. I think it was last night. Then it was right after that game, and then Colin Cowherd was like, I want to be clear, I don't think this is an example of how good the Saints are. And it was like, I mean, it was rough. It was a rough game.
Yeah, that was not a game. That was not a football game.
It's a beatdown.
That was grown men playing against 5-year-olds. Really.
Put the
But
Pop Warner team out there.
let's move on to why we created this podcast and talk about West Virginia real quick. Men's soccer is still number 1 in the country 2 weeks in a row. Keep it up, boys. You are killing it. Love to see it. Love to see that we are not just a football or basketball school anymore. We are all around sports school. So
Football.
football.
Oh,
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
football is life. Remember,
Yeah,
everybody.
football school.
And then in the spring, we're a baseball school. Always remember, we are
yeah,
baseball.
Our baseball program's been.
And they're building an indoor facility now. As we speak, they are building it right next to the baseball park. So
The baseball
fantastic.
park's up on the hill, right? It's up
Yep.
by the law school and stuff. Yeah, that's.
No.
No, I'm
Other
thinking of a
side.
different hill. Other hill.
You're-
My bad.
There's nothing else that can fit on Law School Hill.
Yeah, the law school.
If they tried. Yeah, no. But biggest thing was the football team, after a great start to the game against University of Albany, Great Danes, they took the foot off the gas. It was 28-14 at halftime. And then the team decided, oh, we remember how to, or 21-14, and then we remember how to play football. And didn't let you Albany score the rest of the game and manhandled them for a 49-14 victory. I love it. I'm very excited that we won because the loss to Penn State still was stinging deeply.
It still stings. We have to go to Pennsylvania
I don't care.
now.
I don't have to go to Happy Valley. You know how
True. I'm
Crappy-
not saying we are.
you know how crappy it would be to go to Happy Valley? It's like literally in the middle of goddamn nowhere. There's more farms around the area than people.
No, it's like West Virginia.
No, there's more mountains in West Virginia. Come
There's
on.
more
come on.
mountains.
But this week is Brawl Week. It's probably the biggest game on our schedule this year, next year, and then not for another couple of years afterwards. But it is exciting. We'll drop some news about that in a little bit at the end of the podcast. But John, I gotta ask you, do you think we win it? And what's the score?
Well, I will be there with the Thursday night game this week. With no game on Sunday. My mom and I will be attending the
Nice.
game. I will be meeting her in Pittsburgh for the game. We decided like as soon as like when the schedule came out and everything, I was like, there's gonna be a chance that we can finally see West Virginia play Pittsburgh. The last time they played in Pittsburgh was the Thursday before my wedding, so I was not allowed to go to that. I would say not allowed, but I decided it was not a good idea to go if I wanted to go. And then they ended up losing on a questionable pass interference call. So maybe it was good that I wasn't there. But I believe West Virginia is favored. But like I think it's like 2.5, which is
and Pitt came back from a 17-point deficit and beat Cincinnati last week, which it's Cincinnati, so it's not like it's an amazing turnaround, but still a 17-point comeback is huge. So it's going to be a game for sure.
Oh yeah, it always is. No matter what the record, throw the record. It's one of those like college football rivalries. Throw the records out the window, and then but it's always those games are always fun.
Yeah.
Like
where are you sitting?
I think we're corner end zone, West Virginia side.
Okay, so that's where we are. So we'll be there. I've talked to a couple of people. It sounds like Adam Ho is going to be there and a few others. So we'll touch base when we get there, and maybe we can all link up and see each other, which would be nice.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
But I believe I have a unbeaten record when attending West Virginia Pitt games. So hopefully that keeps it rolling.
I would like that. I have a 1-1 record right now. So we would love the extra luck for this one.
We'd love to get into the positive.
because let's see, we won 2009. We won 19-16 or something like that. 2010 was the win in Pittsburgh where we kind of demolished them a little bit, and then I think 2011 was ended up being a close game. That was like I just remember the Stedman Bailey stiff arm like over the middle of the field in that
Yep.
game.
I remember
But
watching that
then
one at home because it was
it
always
was
during
always
Thanksgiving.
yeah, they're always on Thanksgiving, so it's like, how do you expect a good student turnout when you're not allowed back in the dorms afterwards, and you put these games at 7 o'clock at night? So like all these, like a lot of the students, they end up like, I remember like they put the student tickets out for public sale because they just weren't going to be able to make it.
That makes no sense. So dumb.
Mm.
But that's okay. They fixed it. They put it earlier in the year.
Right.
So, well, perfect. Let's jump into the reason why you're here. We get to ask you questions now. And there is the best question, and we say that for the end of this whole thing. But Jonathan, you have been through different points of your career. How did you get to where you are now? What was that career progression for you after you graduated in 2013?
So I originally wanted to be a sports agent, I think, and then I discovered that while I do like law, I do not like law school or the idea of 3 years of school after college. And I know a lot of sports agents don't have to be lawyers, but you need to be well versed in contract law. And it was not for me. So I think I found a different avenue with sports agency, which was public relations. I started my sports career working in the sports information office at West Virginia University, and the like learned from some really cool like people who had been in the business for so long. And then West Virginia was on the cusp of being, that was their first Big 12 year, so it was the cusp of like college sports burgeoning into social media and content and what it is today. And then I from there worked 2 years there, worked a year in grad school, and then took a job at a small school in Jacksonville, Florida, North Florida. Go Ospreys! The only Osprey and mascot out there. And I was an SID for 2 sports, and they did not have like a digital media video presence, and I've always had an interest in that. So I decided to use my own camera, use my own computer, and start shooting and editing highlights and interviews, just different stuff for North Florida. And we got like my first year there, they won their conference tournament first time ever, made the NCAA tournament.
Cool.
So it was a very like, they realized the value of like digital media and stuff like that. And then they invested in me to be like a full-time job it was an internship that I took. And then from that full-time job, I was in charge of all the video production, social media, graphic design, a lot of stuff. But I guess when you're 24 years old, you can try to power through all of that and feel like you're not getting burnt out. And then I got an opportunity at Murray State University to transition to full-time video. And so when I went there, I think I was very fortunate again, where my 2 years there were John Morant's 2 years at Murray State. So you had 2 straight conference
Jesus.
titles.
Got a
And
lucky touch.
Yeah.
the
That's
my
crazy.
my first year at Murray State, I realized it was like his like fourth game. He has this putback dunk. I'm like, this kid is unreal. Like this guy, like this like freshman that we have is the best player on this floor. And it's just like he'll show it. Um, I It was interesting. So after my first year at Murray State, I interviewed for a job with the Bills. I was one of the finalists. I flew up, got to see Josh Allen's first reps with the ones at OTAs as a rookie quarterback.
That's cool.
That
And
must be
then
sick.
they called me like after the interview process. They said, "Hey, if we were hiring 2 people, you'd be one of them." But we're gonna go in a different direction. I was like, to me, that was encouraging because I went from working at a small school in the OVC to being a finalist for a job that had, I think, like 250 applicants, and you're right there. So to me, it was, I wasn't going, and I wasn't unhappy with going back to Murray State because I knew we were investing a lot in our video production space, and then we also had John Morant for another year. So I got to cover him when he averaged 20 and 10 and then we won the conference again. He every like I remember him having a huge dunk on the road at like Eastern Illinois, and I my phone starts buzzing. I look at it and it's Bristol, Connecticut, because this was prior to them like having to get like highlights right off the rip. So they were calling me saying, "Hey, like this is an ESPN Plus broadcast, but like, are you here with a camera?" And I was like, "Yep, we'll send it to you when I can." Like,
That's
so they were like,
awesome.
so they were asking they were asking us for footage left and right. And I got to go to the NCAA tournament, watch him drop a triple double on Marquette, and so it was a very cool experience. And then after going like in that spring, um, I was looking around for the next step again, and saw that the Bills had posted a job. So I emailed who would be my supervisor and said like, "Oh, hey, I noticed you had this posting. Just want to let you know I applied." He goes, "Oh, we thought about you when we posted it, so we'll be in touch." So the last event I worked at Murray State was I I got the job off. I got the job with the Bills, and
Mhm.
then worked the NBA draft. Went to Brooklyn, covered Ja
Oh
getting drafted
wow.
by the Grizzlies, and
That's
then
cool.
so when I met him in New York, he was like, "Oh, how's the team looking?" I'm like they look pretty good, but like I'm gone, man. I'm going to the NFL." And he goes, "Oh, we're both going pro." Like,
That's awesome.
so
That's sick.
so it was a whirlwind of a summer to go from like covering the NBA draft and watching like Ja like become the professional that he is, to working then in pro sports.
That's
Um
cool.
so
That's really sick.
so I've been at the Bills now for 5 years actually. They give you, because we're still unpacking stuff, so I had it with me. So they give
Perfect.
you a football for,
Oh,
I think
cool.
it's backwards, but
That's awesome.
for your
That's
5 year
sick.
service you get a football. Um so it's been good. I love it with Buffalo. It's like it feels like a college environment at games, even though it's the NFL. And they do like they talk about it. Like, I know like everybody says like, "Oh, we're a family at this office" and stuff like that, but I think the Bills really push that vibe,
Mhm.
especially in our department. We push like supporting one another and making sure that we're putting out good work, and we're making sure that everybody else like has what they need to make that good work happen. So
Awesome.
I
there
have
you
a
go.
question.
There's my career progression. Yep.
That's awesome,
I,
man. That
I have a
that is
question.
phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing, by the way. Well done. 3 straight conference championships, NBA draft, professional football. Amazing. Um, so my question isn't on our little list that we sent you because it came up while you were discussing. But is there any part of working at a college where you're dealing with multiple sports and a wider array of athletes than working in the NFL where you're on one team, you've got just football going on, same guys the whole year? Is there more stability in that sense is better, or is it cooler to have the variety and be able to get this college culture going as opposed to just football focus?
I think for especially the small schools, you are one man banding it a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of my support was interns. I would not be probably like I wouldn't still be in sports if it wasn't for the interns I had along the way, like that wanted to support our like athletes and stuff like that. it's college is interesting because coaches they look at everything. So coaches want like the track and field coach wants the same as what football gets or what men's
Mhm.
basketball gets. Um, and you find ways to not say no. You say yes, but um, like, and I think North Florida was interesting because a lot of their sports were good. So it was balancing how to cover all of these different good athletes. And I think now you see it in college where small schools are still, they have small staffs, but the larger schools have almost the same level of coverage as an NFL team. You look at like Colorado, where they probably have the same amount of people as any NFL team working in digital media between
No,
video,
everything's
graphics
videotape.
design, like social media. Like they have like because Deion Sanders' son runs like a production company that does like that documents everything. Um, but all those large schools, they kind of took the mold from the NFL and
Mhm.
placed it into like this is how we need to cover all of our sports. So it's kind of it's like a mixed bag, and I think with the NFL, you think of like all the different projects you have to do as your different sports. So like
Okay.
we have our weekly TV show, we have Mic'd Up, we have like different avenues that we need to produce content for, and so that's your different sports is what I
Okay.
feel like.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Larger production team, there's more to create and there's more attention towards it because it's such a national relevant
Right.
organization as compared to colleges, like you were saying, where you're more regional, so you only have like one plus interns type situation. That makes sense.
Yeah, the I was very fortunate where a lot of students at Murray State wanted to cover regardless of what sport it was. They just wanted to work on video production and stuff like that.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
More
good
out
for
there
the
to do
industry.
it.
Get that many people interested.
Right.
Um, I'm gonna throw one that's not on here as well. And you mentioned earlier your team is big enough that you don't have to travel to every away game. I know years ago you were traveling a bunch to different events, not even just during games itself, but going to other events. What was the biggest takeaway from being able to travel with a team and being in that environment compared to, say, a home environment, which we all know Buffalo is crazy. Y'all drove in a blizzard to go to a game. Like, I remember seeing your story on Instagram and being like, how is he? What? Like, what? And I think we got a lot of snow in New Hampshire. No, you
No
win.
lake effect.
No, yeah, no
Yeah,
lake
the
effect.
and that, and
Lake
that
effect.
the weird thing about the lake effect too is that there's a legit snow line cutting through the middle of the city.
Mm,
So if you depending on where you are, you could be you could get 7 feet like we had in Orchard Park, or you could have 5 inches like up north. Um, and that was one of those. We always get a bad storm in November, and that was we knew that we moved the game to Cleveland or not Cleveland, our game against Cleveland to Detroit. So we had moved it just because it's when you get that much snow, it's impossible to get people to the game to work, and you're potentially clogging up emergency services, which is also why our playoff game last year against the Steelers got pushed back a day. Um,
okay.
so it's not a factor of like, oh, they can't play in bad weather or whatever. It's no, we don't want to mess with emergency services that have other things that they need to do. Um, so my car was buried under 8 feet of snow in because I was down the road from the stadium. So I was in the camp of like, okay, um, it's 2.5, 3 miles. I know that the bus to the airport is leaving at this time. If I leave at 8 o'clock, I'm just gonna walk down. Like I know nobody's on the road. It's just there's a travel ban, there's a driving ban, so I'm just gonna walk down the road. And so I had my suitcase and my backpack like ready to travel.
Oh
I was
my
just
God.
just hoofing it down Southwestern Boulevard, which is like a 4-lane road. And then two women pull up in a Chevy like 4x4, ask if I need a ride, and they're like, oh, like we're like we had to go in to our office. And I was like, oh yeah, like I work for the Bills. Like I was just gonna walk to the stadium. They're like, no, we'll drive you right there. Like we'll get you there. And so I knew I was in good hands when the woman who was driving had she had one hand on the wheel and then one hand on a cup of coffee, like a Tim Hortons coffee, which is big in this area. And I was like, okay, like she knows what she's doing in this weather. So they drove me right up to the front door.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
so, and then I traveled with a few of our operations staff to go get other players that were like walking their way to the main roads to get picked up.
I just remember seeing all the videos of like the players being like, well, my truck's here and I can't make it in. So I'm just gonna walk. And I, I don't know how half that city functions. I remember, like you said, like that snow belt line, they showed it, I think that year, that big snowstorm, it was like this from here over got blasted, but from here over got like 2 inches. It we got like nothing. It, unreal. So good for you to live in that. I couldn't do it. And I love
Yeah,
it
Some of
it's
my
snow in the cold.
favorite, some of my favorite videos and stuff is when they show like teams getting back to their stadiums after away games. They take like the night flight back, and like the Bills fans are out by the planes and stuff, and where the tarmac and the fence and stuff. And then the players are driving their cars, and it's like November, December, and the whole like bed of the truck is like full of snow. And like the car's like buried in the snow, and they're like driving it out of the parking lot.
Yeah, we went to Chicago same year that we moved the game to Detroit. We went to Chicago for a scheduled road game, and a blizzard hit. Like it had gone through Chicago and then it was going into Buffalo, so it picked up. It was a lake effect blizzard essentially. Um, so we got back to the airport, and there's like 10 feet of like these snow drifts are just piled up on some of these cars,
Oh,
and some of these guys are from like Florida and stuff, so they're just driving away with a big like 6 foot chunk of like a boulder on top of their car.
and you're like,
Probably should
I'm
get
not
that
gonna
on
say it. Not even gonna try. Not
video.
even. No, just gonna let them do it.
Yeah, they were basically like somebody flagged them down and was like, "Oh, just stop right there," and then everybody got like shovels and started like
Well,
like
didn't
picking
like
up like
the the fans go and start cleaning out cars and the road around like the area so the players could get out? Is
oh
I
yeah,
think
like
what I remembered, like the fans
they're
were that crazy to do that, which was unreal.
so another plug for the Buffalo Bills YouTube. We have a couple of features on getting out of the snow for that game, and there is a incredible character named Squirrel Winters who is Josh Allen's neighbor, and he has some heavy construction equipment, including a plow that he used to plow Josh's driveway in order for him to get out. Like, and then there's like other neighbors that like all piled together like to like dig like Dawson knocks out like, and then so like it's unreal like what like they say it's a city of good neighbors, and they mean it. Like the fans love the Bills, and they like the fact that they're like they didn't even want to shovel their own house out. They're like, well, we gotta get these players to the airport.
They're like, let me just shovel this little path out of my house so I can go shovel their whole driveway real quick. That's
Yeah,
Hey, that's being a
dedication.
neighbor. That's a neighbor right there. Um, awesome. Andrew, you got the next question here.
So walk us through what like your typical regular season week is as the producer in the sense of the videography and your editing and what you're trying to get out, and that sort of like I imagine there's team meetings and discussions on deadlines and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so this week's a little different because we have the short week. So we are not doing our weekly TV show because just because of it, we usually send our show to the networks for local TV on Thursday. So they can run it a couple times like prior to the game on Sunday. But because it's a Thursday game, it just doesn't work that way. So a typical, like, we played on Sunday, we're playing again next Sunday. Monday morning we'll have like, we'll just label all of our footage that we shot the previous day. Um, and then we also make sure all of our equipment is like our gears unpacked from the game, whether it was a road game or home game, and just kind of organize ourselves for the week ahead. And then we also tape our TV show. So Sean will sit down with Steve Tasker. If you're a older football fan, he's a legend. He should be a Hall of Famer. But he works in our he is our one of our TV hosts. So he sits down with Coach. We film that, and then right from there, it's your like all systems go. Like Tuesday, you get a little bit of a breather. That's when we meet and decide like what goes on for the week. Like what pieces do we have down the line? How do we structure our work week? And then we plan out game coverage for the week ahead. And then like Wednesday is the big media day for a normal Sunday week. You have Coach will talk prior to practice. We get to film a portion of practice, and then afterwards, you have a lot of your main players will talk to the media. So we're recapping all of those. And then post practice is when that's our opportunity to like get interviews with players for different feature stories. Our social media team will start producing content. That's usually like when they like some of the videos you'll see is comes from like content where they're coming off the practice field on their way to
Yeah,
the
like
locker room.
naming random NBA players. Yeah, I saw
Yes,
that
yep,
one.
yep.
That was great, by the
Yeah.
way. Whoever came up with that idea, tell them that was fantastic.
So like yeah, they're right there, like ready to go. So that Wednesday and Thursday are a little similar. And then Friday you are prepping for the game. Depending on if it's a away game, depending on where we're going, that's when like the equipment truck will leave. Like they drive all of the football equipment to the stadium. Unless it's a pretty far game, then they'll fly it with us. Um, and then Saturdays on a home week, we typically that's like our off day. And then Sunday you're ready to roll. If you're traveling, then you travel the day before a game. You fly out typically like middle of the day. Um, then you get in, get dinner, probably go out, and then like I think the players have curfew, and then like you're ready to roll the next morning. So like whenever it's funny because like when I have friends in like a city that we're going to, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm coming in. Like I'll be here at this game. And they'll be like, oh cool, like we should hang out. We should get breakfast on Sunday. I'm like, no, no, no. This is a 1 o'clock kick. Like, like they're like, oh okay. What about like hanging out? Like how long you stay? And I'm like, we leave after the game. Like it's a like we the game is over. We probably have about an hour and a half between the final whistle and us being on the bus to drive back to the airport and fly out.
Wow.
You waste no time.
The town, hey,
Yeah,
everything.
but like I think it's like you're able to travel that quickly when you have like you fly charter everywhere and you have police escorts everywhere you go. So it's um the road games I always find interesting. They're fun. Like they're fun experiences because you get to travel to different stadiums. You get to like experience different game presentations, like and how fans interact with you. I've had a lot of different fans say different things to me because like the front row NFL fans are an unreal group of people,
Oh,
regardless of what stadium you're in. If you have invested to be a front row NFL fan, you are one of a kind.
yeah, I would say
Dedication.
so. Um, I know we have more questions, and I want to be cautious of time of that it's 8:15, and you know, want to make sure one respect your time that you get to go to bed because it sounds like you are up early for work every day with how much you have to do. Um, but I gotta ask, what's your top stadium to travel to and your least favorite? What are those two for you right now?
Um, so I think, unfortunately, because our stadium is older, uh, I am not a huge fan of the one tunnel. but we make it work
Mm.
with what we got. We're an older stadium, but we're getting a new one across the street, so there's gonna be a lot of tunnels in that one. The I
It's
thought
gonna look beautiful.
Tampa, we traveled to Tampa in 2021. That was the year after they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and the fans were so invested that it was like one of the cooler like game presentation, like crowd involvement games I've been to. I know it's a sore spot for Bills fans, but being there for the 13 seconds game was unreal. Like it was like the crowd, the level of the crowd at Kansas City is always crazy, but then it's like to top it off, it's that close of a playoff game. Um, and it's like arguably like the best playoff game ever. Uh, so that's always going to be a great experience. And then I do like going to New England though. I do like New England's it's an easy stadium to get around in. The staff is incredibly friendly. Their video crew is super helpful with us. And the and then the fans are always very animated. the like those the especially when they play Buffalo, so
Mm.
it's fun to be like in front of that crowd going on. But it's like at the end of the day, it's the NFL, so like every stadium is like it's like the top tier. Like there's no like I think like is tough because it's old.
Mhm.
But that was because like the hottest game I've ever filmed and the coldest game I've ever filmed are both in Chicago. Um, and when you're
Wow.
it's a stadium that's like dropped into a like concrete hundred like over 100 years old concrete pavilion. There's a lot of like it's tough to get around. Um, but they're getting a new stadium as well. But the yeah, it's been fun. I think this year there's a couple of places that I want to like knock off the travel list just because and you get these opportunities with the NFL and it's great.
That's awesome. You got to take advantage of it because not always going to be able to do it one day.
Great.
Awesome. Andrew, you got a couple more?
Yeah. So you've been with the Bills organization for about 5 years, going on your sixth season now. What has been like the toughest part of your role as a producer? Like, is it content wise? Is it communication with other members of the team? Is it just the sheer amount of videotaping that's getting done or organization of all that content?
Yeah, I think that I don't know about the toughest part of the job. I like the hour commitment is like that's a tough part of working in sports in general. Everybody's when sports happen on nights and weekends, that's when typically everybody has off. So
Hmm.
whatever, regardless of what level you work in, working in sports is the hours commitment is the I would say the
Service
toughest point.
industry stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Um and for me I think like the like in specifically with like working in professional football, um you have a lot of ideas and you have a lot of content that you want to make but you don't necessarily have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of opportunities because regardless of like what we think of like what we want to do this season we're through week one. I'm gonna blink and it'll be the bye week. Like it'll
Yeah.
be like we'll be at week 12 and we'll be wondering like where like the other like I feel like it was last week I was packing to go live in the dorms for training camp for a few weeks. Um so it goes very quickly and you want to get you have ideas that you want to get done, but not you don't necessarily have the time to do it.
That makes sense. I hear players talk about how once it starts going, it's almost like it's like a bus you can't break on. Like it's just everything, like every day, you just got to keep on schedule, keep going with everything else. Because if you fall behind, then the rest of your whole scheduling and you've got a game next week, you've got a game after that. The game after that might be a little bit sooner than the game before. So the second you start getting behind, everything starts falling apart.
I think you hear a lot of like coaches and players preach it, and it's not just like a media line of saying, "Oh, we take it one game at a time." They're literally taking it one game at a time. Like they take it like
Yeah.
one day at a time. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got meetings, practice, film, like
Yeah.
go to bed, like eat, like eating is on the schedule. Like
Yeah.
you gotta
I feel like
like the
it's got to be super structured,
oh
like
yeah, yeah.
to a T of what's going on. Because I remember when you were at MetLife a couple years ago, and we were trying to connect, and it was like, you're like, no, I have to be this. I'm like, I didn't even understand how crazy structured your day was, even in doing what you were doing, thinking of, oh, well, he's filming stuff, so he's available to walk around. No, you're in certain spots, certain positions throughout that game.
Mhm.
It's a lot. Hats off to you for it.
And even though it's an NFL game, you're there to work. Like you gotta be on point. You never know what's gonna happen in front of you, so you gotta make sure you're there to hit record. Yeah,
Well,
it's a heavily structured environment.
well, let's end it with this question, and this is the best question we ask every sport management student that graduated with us or had this individual. You got to tell us best doc or favorite doc story.
I don't know if it's a story, but
Oh boy.
it is a bit that he would do with me on purpose to get me animated in discussions. He would always mispronounce my last name. When he would call on me, he would always mispronounce my last name, and I knew, and I figured it out like after he did it a couple times. I'm like, okay, this guy's doing it to make me passionate about whatever I'm about to say. Like he's trying to just add a little bit of fire under there. So like at first it was annoying at first, and I was like, okay, like there's a method to the madness of why he's doing this to me.
That sounds about right for Doc. That's mispronouncing someone's name on purpose. Yeah, definitely something he would do continuously. So awesome. Well, John, it's been a pleasure to have you on here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving some insight into a different side of the sports world than anyone we've talked to. We've
Yeah.
talked to people within the ticket sales side, the strength and conditioning, all these different sides. So this is a very interesting side of it, of being part of the production side. So very happy that you were able to join us. We will see you this weekend for sure. We'll catch up. We'll hopefully be able to have a drink and say hello and catch up for a few minutes before we go and watch West Virginia. Hopefully, beat the crap out of some Panthers. But neither Andrew and I do the outro ever.
Want me to try?
You can give it a shot. Actually, hold on. We
Okay.
have to say one thing. We mentioned it earlier in this episode that we might do something for the brawl. Well, we are recording a short episode tomorrow night, and so that means Andrew has to get this episode out basically tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep. If you've been watching, this will come out on Wednesday, and if it isn't, feel free to slide into the Manly Musings DMs and give Kevin a hard time, and then he'll text me in the group chat, make me feel really embarrassed about it.
That's what we do to make him get worked up and embarrass him. But
Sometimes it's not my fault though. That video was supposed to go out the other
it's
day. I put it up
okay.
later, but it was like I had it like pre-scheduled and everything.
Well, we discussed that already.
Well, the scheduling should work.
Well, it didn't. So we will be doing a quick short episode tomorrow night, just to kind of walk you guys through what's going on, what we're doing. And then, of course, we're going to do a We Out Here from two different perspectives of traveling this time. Andrew and I flying, and Kevin is driving. So it'll be fun. But Andrew, get us the heck out of here so that 2/3 of this group can go to bed.
Okay. Thank you for watching, everybody. This is my impression of Kevin's little outro that he does every week. I am not a Filipino Starbuckster, so I have no questions to ask or anything. But remember to monitor all social medias: TikTok, Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Play, Google Play, and Amazon. That went back up, I guess. It's now on our distributor website again. The Manly Musings Pod is our handle on almost everything. You can find us there. If you can't find it as that full Manly Musings podcast, make sure you follow Kevin at kcueva624 and Merritt at Merritt_P. And remember, take care and spike your hair.
And before we forget, Jonathan, do you want to shout out any social
Oh,
media?
yes, Jonathan, any
for
social
you.
media, besides the Bills YouTube, which will be in the description below?
Nope, just keep out like Buffalo Bills on social media and everything.
Mhm.
I don't post much. I usually just share what I've made. So you can usually find all the good stuff that we make on those platforms.
Yeah, shout out
Uh,
Bill's social media, and thank you for being here this week. We'll see you next week or in a few days because we got multiple content coming out this week.
Bye, y'all.